Good afternoon, everyone. This is David Cunningham from Counter Ops, and this is a quick special report, kind of a coronavirus update from here in Ohio. It is Saturday, August 8th. As many of you know, earlier this week, I believe this was Thursday, the governor of Ohio, Mike DeWine, who's been, in the news nationally and definitely locally, so it's not that his name's any big secret. He initially tested positive for COVID-19 and then returned to his residence. He was going to go into a 14-day self-quarantine. Then later that evening on the evening news at 10 or 11 p.m., it was reported that he tested negative to a second coronavirus test. This is the more detailed test they explain in the news report. That's the PCR test that specifically looks for this novel coronavirus that came out of China. I will also call it the China virus. That's where it came from. A lot of other information on this Counter Ops page about that. But at any rate, it's a very particular strain of coronavirus that, COVID-19 develops out of. So the PCR test is probably the most accurate test for finding out if somebody's been infected by that particular coronavirus. So it looks like there might be two different versions or more than one version of a test floating around out there, depending on what states are using what tests, maybe even what locations are using what tests. In the very beginning, back in March, the CDC headquarters in Atlanta, and I think only one other lab was doing tests. That's why it was taking longer to get these test results back. And then, this more rapid test has been developed. But if it's less accurate, and this is my whole point, if the tests itself are not accurate enough to specifically isolate this particular strain of the coronavirus, which causes COVID-19, we may have a lot of false positives. And with a whole lot of false positives, we're making bad decisions and policy decisions and reopening decisions and mask decisions. I'll talk about the mask maybe on another video. I thought I would do it here, but maybe on another video. We're making all these decisions maybe with bad numbers, and then it becomes easier for the CDC, the WHO, and governors and health, public health agencies in any given state to make decisions and make recommendations and policy about how we're dealing with this based on these numbers. So if your data's wrong, you're going to make wrong decisions. And I love the governor, so I'm not criticizing him. I think he's doing a good job. I like his temperament and his approach. I like the fact that he's a believer. I believe his heart's in the right place. And I like his patience with everything. A couple of things I don't agree about, So mask being one of them, because originally it wasn't supposed to be a mandate in Ohio. It is now. But when this happened, before the second test came through with a negative result, and I guess he's getting another test sometime today, I'll have to stay tuned for that report. Maybe I'll bring you an update depending on what we find out. But I knew there were going to be two problems with him testing positive, potentially even more. But the two problems were going to be, number one, that was going to prove, if he was truly positive, that was going to prove, number one, who did he get it from? Number two, maybe that's pointing in a lot of evidence that these masks aren't that effective because he's wearing them, his staff is wearing them, and that would be the question, how did he get it? But if the PCR test is saying he really doesn't have it, that could be a possibility. Number two would be the whole thing about the tests, which I've just explained, because it would say, hey, if these tests can't be trusted and if they're not accurate, why are we making all these types of decisions based on faulty numbers and faulty data? I watched just a snippet out of the governor's press conference yesterday, coronavirus update press conference yesterday. One of the things he was mentioning about the Department of Health here in Columbus, or here in Ohio, is that the database system and the way the system is designed for them to pull information and gather these numbers as far as the number of cases and what's going on, that the system, the way it's designed, isn't as flexible or dynamic for them to pull the information out that they're really looking for, or that would be most helpful in the most efficient way. So I think we're kind of, running with a half functional system, or I don't want to say half-witted, but probably half-functional or half-trustworthy mechanisms and methods about how we're looking at the information about the coronavirus and what's actually happening as far as more outbreaks, who's really sick, how many hospitalizations, and all this information. So I've gone too long. I'm going to end this video here. Keep those things in mind. I probably will be posting another video about the coronavirus and how it gets treated, as far as recovering from it and what you need to do, and comparing that to what most people do about cold and flu. So this is David Cunningham for CounterOps, signing off.